Bros, listen, we're gonna talk about opening the third eye, and I know y'all wondering what is more important than opening the third eye. Dude, I just found out how the microbiome affects mental health. We about to get into this microbiome maybe just one more time. I might find some more stuff, but we about to do that today. Microbiome. Tune in. Peace. All right, hey, so let's get started. Damn, I stole my daughter's nine. Let's get started. I mean, I love that shit. All right, so I was going to do a session on opening the third eye, right? But it's basically doing what we already doing. I'll cover it tomorrow, and we got some more herbs to go over. We got some more concepts to cover. You know what I'm saying? We still got to talk about the four, five. My fault. Four, five, 6, 7. You cover those. 4, 5, 6, 7, 2, 2, 4. Self-help. Gotta go a little bit more in depth than that. We still got a lot of building to do, fam. We gonna do it though. We gonna build it. We gonna complete it. We gonna lay the foundation out. Cause y'all know, if those that don't know, I'm starting my 21-day challenge today, and I'm doing it in the Vision Quest fashion. I'm doing it in the straight warrior fashion, right? We're gonna go this whole time. Start now, solid food, and we're moving through the next 21 days, right? Like this. This is the goal. I ain't the goal. I got a system in place. All I gotta do is keep to the system, right? And I already woke up. I already was dreaming that I had already was eating. You know what I'm saying? And this is, I'm kind of freaking out. You know what I'm saying? Because it's, I've done a fast like this before, but I was with a group. You know what I'm saying? One, and then the last 3 days going without nothing, right? I'm going without nothing. I'm really trying to plug in. I'm really, getting all of the extraneous materials, all of the that's not me. I'm going totally in, right? And that's the goal. So I gotta remember to go and get those days off work, because it's gonna be crazy around for me on those days, those 3. Well, it's actually one day is Ania, Kaumba, and Imani, because I think, yeah, all right. So let's go and look at this. Microbiome, mental health in a modern environment. Now I need y'all to understand, right? Because like I said, it kind of was fucking with me when I was watching Impact Theory, and Homeboy said, neuroscientists said that they could change a person's personality by dealing with the microbiome. And I know I've been on this for a minute, family, but I wanted to bring you an article. It's an article on ncbi.nim.nih.gov, microbiome and mental health in the modern environment. The Journal of Psychological Anthropology. Abstract, a revolution in the understanding of the pathophysiology of illness combined with new knowledge about host microbiome interaction and psychoneuroimmunology has opened an entirely new field of study, the psychobiotics. You hear that? Whole new field of study. Something that we can get our kids interested in. Psychobiotics. The modern microbiome is quite changed compared to our ancestral one due to diet, antibiotic exposure, and other environmental factors. And these differences may well impact our brain health. The sheer complexity and scope of how diet, probiotics, prebiotics, and intertwined environmental variables could influence mental health are profound obstacles to an organized and useful study of the microbiome in psychiatric disease. However, the potential for positive anti-inflammatory effects and symptoms ameliorations with perhaps few side effects make the goal of clarifying the role of the microbiota in mental health a vital one. Main text, check it out, fam. Mental health problems such as affective disorder, anxiety disorders, and psychotic disorders are not just diseases caused by psychological stressors added to genetic vulnerability, but rather full body inflammatory conditions related to the immune state. In this light, the role of the microbiome, 100 trillion or so organisms that provide a barrier and profound effect on our immune regulatory functions, most notably in the large intestines, become immensely important. The state of our microbiome affects not only disease of the gut, but also autoimmune disease, obesity, and even how well the liver metabolizes alcohol. Did y'all? Hold on. Y'all didn't hear that. The state of our microbiome affects not only diseases of the gut, but also autoimmune disease, obesity, and even how well the liver metabolizes alcohol. While every person's microbiome is unique, generally healthy people share certain species, diversity, and abundance. It is clear that the microbiome of humans, of humans living in the developed world are far different from those of hunter-gatherers living more as our ancestors did. Are these observed differences in microbiota a surrogate marker for modern pressures exerted on humans? The available evidence would suggest that microbiota and mental health be viewed through the lens of physiological anthropology. In the context of evolutionary medicine, research have taken these findings to explore the impact of the microbiome on mental health. So basically, that's a long way of saying they have figured out that by studying the microbiome, they can learn a little bit more about mental health. And not only more about mental health, see, because y'all got to understand the ultimate goal is control. So now, because this is what they're going to start doing, they're going to start bottling up and prescribing this, right? It might not look like this. They probably gonna have it down in a little capsule, and they gonna have certain healthy bacteria and yeast that you're supposed to ingest on a daily basis. When we could do that ourselves, right? This is research that's showing, right? This is research. She's pulling them from research. He or she is pulling from research that's showing that what we are on is where the future of medicine is going, right? So for us to really start, when we start popping pills, when we start taking herbs and shit, we need to make sure we understand how this shit affects us on a microbiota level. Not only that, we need to make sure that some of the herbs that we're taking are culturally appropriate, because they might not have the effect on us that we think that they're going to have, because we keep dealing with each other as if we all are the same. But we all come from different cultures, which goes deeper than just clothing. It goes into the food, and it goes into the microbiota that's in you and your DNA. The gut-brain connection hinges on how the microbiome influences the hypothalamic adrenal pituitary axis. Oh, I didn't know that. The gut-brain connections hinges on how the microbiome influences the hypothalamic adrenal pituitary axis. Now that's the third, pituitary. I think that's the third. It's the third. Pituitary. Then there's the one up here. Give me a second to think about it. In a similar way to the psychological stress with pathogenic species of bacteria interacting with the immune and endocrine system to create an inflammatory cascade with an increase in sympathetic reactivity. All right, so let's go back. Let's look at that. So the gut-brain connection hinges on how the microbiome influences the hypothalamic, adrenal, and pituitary axis. So there's an axis between these three parts of the brain: hypothalamic, adrenal, pituitary, right? They work together in a similar way to psychological stress with pathogenic species of bacteria interacting with the immune and endocrine system to create an inflammatory cascade. So if you got unhealthy bacteria, it will interact with your immune and your endocrine system to create inflammatory, or to cause it to swell up. Inflammatory, when you hit something and it swells and shit, that's inflammatory. So that's where something in you is being irritated, which makes you sick, would cause an inflammatory cascade, which means that one part to swell up, which causes another part to swell up, which causes another part to swell up. And then it say with an increase in sympathetic reactivity. So all these parts will start working together and helping you become sick. These inflammatory species also have direct communication with the brain via self-produced neurotransmitter and the vagus nerve receptors in the gut, with mostly unknown significance. So, listen, family, listen. With pathogenic species of... Alright. The gut-brain connection hinges on a microbiome influences the hypothalamic, adrenal, and pituitary axis in a similar way to psychological stress, with pathogenic species of bacteria interacting with the immune and endocrine systems to create an inflammatory cascade with an increase in sympathetic reactivity. These the inflammatory species, these are species that causes inflammation inside of you. These are unfamiliar species to your body. These are unhealthy bacteria. These are unhealthy yeast. These are unhealthy viruses. These are unhealthy fungi that are in you, right? These inflammatory species also have direct communication with the brain via self-produced neurotransmitters. So These bacteria, these yeast, these invaders of your microbiota that you are allowing to come in and feeding have direct contact with your brain because they create neurotransmitters to help get you to do what they want you to do. Did y'all hear what the fuck I just said? You have been hijacked. It's a possibility you are being hijacked by bacteria. They pimping you out. Go get my goddamn Cheetos. They pimping you out. Go get my motherfucking Snickers. Snickers satisfied. They pimping you out. I need some more sugar. They pimping you out. These inflammatory species also have direct communication with the brain via self-produced neurotransmitters and the vagus nerve receptors in the gut with mostly unknown significance. I wonder as they get bigger and start turning into these parasites that I was reading about, I wonder how much influence these parasites have. I wonder can these parasites, these large worms, all these millions of worms that might be inhabiting your body, I wonder if they could produce neurotransmitters. And I wonder if those neurotransmitters can hit the receptors in the vagus nerve. And I wonder if the vagus nerve will take up that information up to the brain and perhaps get you to eat on something or eat without stopping or not eat or develop certain habits that are unhealthy for you. Come on, family. Come on, family. Probiotics or anti-inflammatory species, the most studied being the lactobacillus and bifidobacteria, can act to suppress the immune and sympathetic reactions. Demonstrations in both animal and human study have shown that the administration of beneficial microbes can reduce both inflammation and anxiety or behavior signs of stress. These agents work on the same system but in a different location as chemical antidepressants, suggesting possibilities for a new psychobiotic class of low side effect, anti-inflammatory, anti-anxiety, and antidepressant. Thus, studies thus far are promising, though small in scale and broad in scope. Rodent behavior and levels of anxiety are influenced by probiotics, prebiotic type of fibers that act as food for the microbiome. And fecal transplants. This is a fecal transplant is where they take healthy shit from somebody that's healthy and put it up inside of your body. I'm just telling you. In humans, decreased negative ruminative thoughts have occurred in randomized controlled trials after a month of probiotics, while prebiotics and administration of pseudocommensals, microbial species that do not live in the gastrointestinal tract but due to presence in water and soil have continually passed through the human gut in evolutionary history, has decreased anxiety. Now, they get back to that culturally appropriate. Look, pseudocommensals, microbial species that do not live in the gastrointestinal tract, but due to presence in water and soil have continued past through the human gut in the evolutionary history. Right? That's a connection with the earth. That's a connection with the water, right? Where you come from, right? But no, I'm gonna get off of that. Have decreased anxiety. The rates of ADHD or autistic spectrum disorders in young teenagers supplemented with probiotics as infants dropped to 0 compared to controls in one fascinating study. I skimmed this. The rates of ADHD or autistic spectrum disorder in young teenagers supplemented with probiotics as infants dropped to 0%. Now, I don't know how they did that, right? The rates of ADHD or autistic spectrum disorders in young teenagers supplemented with probiotics as infants dropped to 0% compared to controls in one fascinating study. In another paper, researchers were able to determine check this out. In another paper, researchers were able to determine the patients with and without depression with 100% sensitivity and 97% specificity just by looking at the microbial genome from fecal swabs. So they could tell whether a person was suffering depression by looking at their feces. Because the feces produced, a majority of the feces is not necessarily yours, but it's produced by the microbiome. So just by taking a swab of your butt, they could tell whether or not you had some mental issues. And they had almost at 100% with it. 100% sensitivity and 97% specificity. Administration of antibiotics with antidepressant had a significant effect on psychotic depression compared to antidepressants alone. In a small group of inpatients, in addition, major differences have been found between the oral microbiome of people with schizophrenia versus controls. And not surprisingly, the microbiome of people with anorexia is quite different during disease behavior than in recovery. Further study postulate a role between butt microbiota and Alzheimer's dementia. Having established there are some fascinating links between the microbiome and mental health, the challenges to finding safe, actionable clinical data are profound. One obvious obstacle is the sheer diversity of diagnoses of mental illness, ameliorated somewhat by the goal of addressing underlying systematic inflammation with microbiome manipulation. That goal may not be as simple as it sounds, given that the microbiome is a changeable entity reacting to local stress, food, intake, sleep, and baseline conditions. One microbiome may be ideal for one person and not for another with a different diet or situation. One size fits all probiotics may not show us the best clinical effect. A more bespoke approach based on microbiome sequencing and filling gaps of known guardian species such as Bifidobacterium longum and Akkermansia muciniphila may be more effective. We need to also establish the benefits risk of low versus high dose probiotic supplementation and the utility of giving prebiotic fibers and probiotics together. Food intake is a massive confounder to any study of the microbiome. Numerous studies show more traditional whole foods are superior for mental health, while optimal levels of vitamins, minerals, and certain fatty acids are key for brain function. These traditional diets also tend to be higher in certain fibers and prebiotics whose benefits for microbiome could explain much of the effects of these diets on mental health. Clearly, we need to do more work and use the information from studies designed to more carefully discern the effects of diet, prebiotics, probiotics, and general health. Numerous one-off studies of various probiotics brands for mental disorders will leave us in a similar state to those trying to glean some wisdom from the research of the omega-3 fatty acids confused and overwhelmed. In addition, attention must be paid to another long-term modified immune system in human evolutionary history. Ignore the many psychobiotic studies. The eukaryotic humans have co-evolved with helminth infections for the entire evolutionary history of our species. They're talking about parasites now. and recent times are striking for their absence. Since the early 1900s, such common infections such as hookworms, enter, enterobius, vermicularius, in the developed world have decreased tremendously, with numerous possible downstream effects on long-term immunity and host behavior. Parasitic contribution falls alongside that of commensal microbiome, and helminths deserve a chair at the table of microbiome research and mental health. Helminths have been used, listen, parasites have been used experimentally for treatment of autoimmune diseases such as Crohn's disease and multiple sclerosis, with some interesting case reports of psychiatric disorders, including anxiety disorders, affective disorder, autistic spectrum disorder, co-occurring with the autoimmune disease, remitting as well. So when he put these putting no parasite in me, when he put this parasite in somebody with that was going through one of these autoimmune diseases and also had mental health issues, according to what I'm reading and what I'm understanding, and I could be wrong. Somebody that's out there, you might need to help me with my interpretation. But it sounds as if that when they put these things in them, it changed their behavior as well as help with the disease. Not promoting it towards getting stronger, but actually helping them make health improvements. So let's look at it. With some interesting case reports of psychiatric disorders, including anxiety disorder, affective disorder, and autism spectrum disorder, co-occurring with the autoimmune disease, remitting, which means going backwards as well. It will be prudent to study helminthic therapies for neuropsychiatric conditions, particularly in those conditions such as OCD or some types of psychosis where there is a suspected autoimmune contribution. Conclusion: microbiome manipulation is an evolving tool in an armamentarium to fight mental illness. We must temper enthusiasm and marketing of any particular probiotic strain or brand with large helping of wisdom and experience already gleaned from the many researchers becoming experts in this relatively new field of human medicine. Multidisciplinary communication among medical researchers, anthropologists, and psychologists can help us to modulate our modern environment to ameliorate the need for psychobiotics in the first place. Funding. Now, I'm going to read this to you. Funding for this paper, none. Competing interests. The author declares that has no competing interest. So she wrote it, and she got plenty of. I posted this up on my Facebook page. I posted this up on G&J's Facebook page. Feel free to go look at it. But family, listen to me. Listen to me. Once again, we on to something big. Second, we have the wherewithal to take control of our microbiome. Family, you have 100 trillion cells that could work for you or against you, right? You need to get them working for you. Now, what can you do? What can I do, Brother Hatim? All right, now, probiotics. Now, they talking about prebiotics. You get that on spinach, you get that on leafy green vegetables and stuff like that. Fresh vegetables. You know what I'm saying? Those prebiotics that help your body, boom. You know what I'm saying? Those are prebiotics, right? And I'm gonna do some research on prebiotics and help you with that. But you ain't got to take them in the damn pill. You ain't got to take probiotics in the damn pill, right? Because I already introduced you to probiotics, right? We're gonna talk about prebiotics. You get this when you eating vegetables with roughage, greens and shit, right? Right? Now, probiotics. Teaching you how to make this. Then let's talk about pickles. Not the pickles you buy at the store, pickles that you could make at your home, right? pickles that you can make at your home. You know what I'm saying? How about sauerkraut that you can make at your home? How about kimchi that you can make at your home? Right? All this stuff is available for us. Probiotics, prebiotics, so that we can start bringing ourselves back into balance and take control over this 100 million. This 100 million, my fault, 100 trillion celled army called your gut, which is also called your second brain. And by you not monitoring and protecting it, and by you not feeding it what it's supposed to eat, culturally inappropriate food that is unhealthy for it, you are destroying you and your army. This army will fight cancer. This army will fight depression. This army will fight Crohn's disease, all autoimmune diseases. This army, you could get it to work in your kids to fight ADHD. You could get it, according to some of the studies, you can get it to fight some of the, what is it, what is that called? You get it to fight, basically you get to fight almost all, I ain't gonna say even almost. Diabetes, you get it to fight. You get this army protecting you. Working, it's part of your immune, it's part, all of it is one. And then they all want to survive. All of them. So they'll work for you. So you might as well get them working for you. Get you some probiotics. Get your prebiotics in you. Get you some fasting. Remember, what's the four things we need? Huh? Air, that's right. Water, that's right. Water, proper water, right? Right? Not just air, but what? Proper breathing, right? Proper water, proper food. And food, when we say food, when to eat, when not to eat. That means fasting is in there too. And last but not least, movement. I did all mine this month. I found my camera feel that is running shit or something, and it's just gonna cut off on me, right? But yo, I'm just coming back on to say peace. Y'all have a great day. Have a great emoji. I'm out. Thank you for watching the video. I want you to subscribe. Click the bird right there, the fiery bird. And I also have a special video just for you, right there. And for those that want more information about Giambi Journey, go to our site. It should be right about there.